Hello, it's Francie. Welcome back to the channel. It is still November, and as such, I've decided to do Huevember this year. But only for one day. By the way, if the audio sounds a little bit different this time around, it's because my recording setup is slightly different than usual to adjust to a couple of circumstances, but it shouldn't be far too noticeable. Anyways, I was actually supposed to draw some product designs for the day, but due to some time constraints, as usual, I wanted to do something not necessarily simpler, but at least I'll only need to do one artwork. Because usually for product designs anyway, I preferably do one set which has around 3 artworks. So I figured I'd just do one artwork today, even if it's more of a full illustration rather than just a simple product or sticker design. Since I'll only be doing one anyway, I think I can commit to making it more of an illustration. Anyways, aside from that, I wanted to try out a drawing challenge for this. The problem was, at the beginning, I didn't know exactly what drawing challenge to do. I thought maybe I should join a Draw This in Your style, but I wasn't really online that much anymore to see if any artists that I follow are hosting a Draw This in Your style. And although I did think of just going onto the challenge tab on Artfall and choosing one random challenge, I kind of didn't want to do that either to some extent, and I just really wasn't feeling some of the art challenges on there either. But then I remembered Huevember exists. If you're not familiar with it, Huevember is, from my understanding, a challenge where you draw one artwork or drawing or illustration focused on a specific hue for each day of November. So, each day of November, you make an artwork based on a different hue, and you end up with a bunch of differently colored pieces by the end of the month. I don't really pay much attention to Huevember usually, I will admit, but I do like how it's kind of the opposite of Inktober. Because for Inktober, you pretty much just do a black and white artwork for each day of October based on a different prompt for each day. That is something I did not do last October either, because I'm very busy. I have no time to do a full Inktober. Anyways, I realize I don't actually know if Huevember usually follows prompts too, or if it's just based on the color. But I'm only doing this for one day anyway, so I don't think that really matters that much. Oh well. For different challenges, a lot of people have different rules or things they stick by, and I'm guessing that should be the same for Huevember. After all, it is still a community challenge, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong though. Anyways, I decided to try my hand at Huevember for once and actually make one artwork for the challenge. I chose a pink hue for this one. Mainly, I thought it would work generally well for the piece that I have. I didn't follow any prompt or anything, or even those things other artists do where they kind of have a list of different hues they'll be working with every day of the month. Is that considered a prompt? Oh well. For this piece though, it is also actually a redraw. While I was figuring out what piece to make, I remembered I have this older artwork I made for a different drawing challenge. That one was for a Drawtober challenge on Artfall back in 2022. The name of the artist who hosted the challenge I will just put on screen since I can't quite remember off the top of my head right now. The original piece was made for day 18, so that's October 18, 2022, with the prompt Seer. Although I actually drew and finished it weeks later. I honestly am not really clear on the exact meaning of seer, so I just went with my first thought at the time and something that felt right to me. So I made this kind of magic character Someone who sees into the future, I suppose. Like a magic prophet with a crystal ball. You'll also notice that I did actually change the colors from the original drawing. The original piece had more of a purple palette, which I actually forgot about. I genuinely thought that the original piece was mainly pink, which is also why I wanted the main hue for this piece to be pink. Now that I'm looking at the two artworks side by side, I think pink just suits it a lot more. Or maybe I'm just biased. But now that I think about it, I do get why the color palette for the original was more purple. Since I did that piece traditionally with my alcohol markers, I ended up with a more limited color palette to work with. A lot of the pinks in my marker set were either a bit too bright for the vibes that I wanted to go with, so I went with purple. And you wanna know how many purple colors were in my marker set? Well, I'm glad you asked. There were 2 markers. Yup. Only 2 proper purple colored markers. And they're of very similar shades, so yeah. That's it, that's all I had to work with. I did end up using my wine red marker as well, though it's a darker shade of red. Just to add a bit more pop of color. I don't know if that's the right term for it though, just add something to not make it too purple. Yeah, we'll go with that. Aside from the colors though, there are also a bunch of other things that I changed in this newer version of the piece. The overall composition is pretty much the same, except I changed the background and added these little ghostly wisps around the character. I am so bad at terminology today. Anyways, I added those and I used some blur filter layers for it too. Just to add some depth to some parts of it. And I also fixed the ghosts. In the original, I don't think you can even consider those ghosts. Or if I intended for those things coming out of the orb to be ghosts in the first place. I think I don't even know, but those things in the original are definitely not ghosts. But now they are. It makes so much more sense now that they actually look like ghosts. Although I don't know if they're coming out of the orb or ball, or they're just there surrounding the character. Oh well. I also gave the ghost some differently shaped eyes, just to make it more interesting. I still wanted the general wine red vibes of this piece though, but pretty much pinker, since again, the hue for this is pink. Also, I gave the prophet character some hair now. They didn't have hair in the original, but now they do. By the way, this character is not an OC. This is just some random character I made for the purpose of the drawing challenge. So there's no lore or backstory or anything for this character. I had fun playing around with the yellow highlights and the brighter ends of the ghost. I used a bunch of different blending modes for this, but I can't actually remember the exact process for how I got to the effects that are on the final piece now. I do really like the end results though. I love how I put the yellow highlights on the character and the mist things, then a brighter, close to white but not exactly white, purplish highlight color on the ends of the ghost. I did try to add the yellow on the ghost too, but that didn't really work out. But I like it, it's like the ghosts are separate beings from the character. And maybe the character doesn't even know the ghosts are there? Oh well. I'll leave explanations for this piece up for my imagination, I suppose. I also kept some parts of the highlights white, just because. As much as this piece was fun to work on, those hands were a nightmare to figure out. I should really practice drawing hands more along with a bunch of other things I need to work on, but yeah. The symmetry tool was an absolute lifesaver. So I didn't have to go through the struggle of drawing the other hand from scratch as well as making everything look symmetrical. Overall, this piece is just much better than the original, and definitely a lot cleaner. At the time of making the original, I took pride in myself for making it so clean. Despite the obvious symmetry issues with it, a pat on the back for my past self for making the original, because if she didn't, I wouldn't have anything to redraw for this. So yeah, I did forget to add some white borders around the character like I usually do, but I think it kind of looks better without it anyway. It feels more like a cohesive piece, since I think the white border might have separated the character a lot more within the space, if you get what I mean. Anyways, I think that's this piece done. I think this was a successful Huevember artwork and redraw, especially after the previous artwork in my previous video that I did not really like, and that was also a redraw. Feel free to let me know what you think, and if you'd like to support me, feel free to visit my Ko-fi where you can throw some cash my way. Or if you liked the video, feel free to give it a like, drop a comment, or subscribe. Those would really mean a lot. That's it for today anyway. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.